Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Hi, nutritional pharmacist Jerry Hickey here with Invite Health Podcasts. I'm also the scientific director. I want to discuss on this episode the interaction between your gut and your brain. It's really important, and there's a lot of data on it now. It's called the GutBrain Axis, and I'm going to start off with someone who appeared on CBS News in March 2017. It was on the program CBS This Morning. It's a Dr. Rudy Tanzi. Now, Rudy Tanzi is a PhD. He's the director of the Alzheimer's Genome Project at Harvard Medical School, and he's a researcher at Massachusetts General Hospital. So he's describing various steps you can take to reduce your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. So here's the moderator asking a question. Aside from choosing the right parents, what can somebody do to prevent Alzheimer's or try to help prevent Alzheimer's? So here's Dr. Tanzi's answer. The four big categories are diet, exercise, sleep, and stress reduction. I wrote about this in detail in my last book, Super Genes. There's 6 chapters, which is more than you wanted to know, about how to adapt your diet to minimize inflammation and plaques. Meaning the Mediterranean diet and probiotics take care of your gut bacteria. So the moderator asks, which probiotics? And Dr. Tanzi says, yogurt, a yogurt drink like kefir, or a probiotic pill with live bacteria. So then the moderator goes on, why would what's going on in your gut affect what's going on in your brain? And Dr. Tanzi answers, well, so it turns out there's what's called a gut-brain axis. When the bacteria in your gut are creating chemicals that interact with your brain that do everything from determine your mood to control how much inflammation there is in your brain. So the moderator asks, and even obesity, right? It's amazing what we're learning about these trillions of bacteria that people were saying, oh, wash them out. I'm going to get a cleanse. They're icky. Let's get them out of us. It turns out, of course, millions of years of evolution, there's a reason for why these bacteria are there. So folks do not have a colonoscopy. So let's get back to Dr. Tanzi. And you would want to take care of them. They're there to help you. A Mediterranean diet, more fiber, more fruit, what are called probiotics and prebiotics. Now, it's very important, the probiotic bacteria as supplements. I always discuss rejuvenating your healthy bacteria in several ways. Sleep, water, some exercise. Try to avoid the bad things like excessive alcohol. A good diet. Fibers in the diet are the foods for the bacteria in your gut. 2, fermented foods like kefir and good forms of yogurt like Greek yogurt. And 3, an actual probiotic supplement. Now, our gut is often referred to as our second brain. Our brain has a huge number of nerve cells. 80 billion? Well, our gut does also. Now, there are nerves directly connecting our gut to our brain. Not that many. You've heard the expression, a gut feeling, or butterflies in my belly. This refers to the connection going from the brain to the digestive tract. Well, this is very true. But it also goes in the other direction. Communication originating in the gut, that affects the brain. And a lot of this has to do with the trillions of bacteria, literally pounds of them, that reside in our digestive tract. Now, besides the bacteria that you would normally think of, there's also yeast bacteria, and there's also viruses living down there. Now, the famous and to me highly entertaining astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, he wrote in his book Astrophysics for People in a Hurry, here's the quote, more bacteria live and work in 1 centimeter of my colon than the number of people who have ever existed in the world. That kind of information makes you think twice about who or what is actually in charge. End of quote. So it just makes sense and science proves this, that intestinal bacteria must interact in ways that affect many facets of our health, including our brain health and our brain function. So the bacteria in our colon thrive on the fibers and healthy foods. That's their food. In fact, when you add some of these to a probiotic supplement, probiotic is the live healthy bacteria that help with health, you're actually putting fibers in there that we call prebiotics. My old friend Dr. Alan Pressman used to say, hey, you wouldn't buy goldfish without goldfish food. Why would you buy probiotic bacteria without probiotic food, which is called a prebiotic? So the prebiotics in healthy foods, they would exist in fruits, fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and pulses. Pulses are foods like beans and lentils. The bacteria ferment the fiber, and they release a whole bundle of things, including short-chain fatty acids. Now, these short-chain fatty acids, the common ones are butyrate, pyruvate, and lactate. So this actually helps control our appetite. For instance, when the bacteria in our gut feed on the fiber, they release a short-chain fatty acid called pyruvate, sometimes referred to as pyruvic acid. The brain senses the amount of pyruvate and uses this to gauge the amount of food we've eaten, which is the same as the amount of energy we've consumed. So when the brain measures enough pyruvate, it decides, well, you've eaten enough food, let's shut down your appetite. This appeared in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in July 2016. So what about lactate? Well, lactate is generated. It helps eliminate problematic bacteria. Good bacteria use it to kill bad bacteria. What about butyrate? Butyrate's very interesting. There's actually prescription drugs that are butyrate, that are enemas, to help people with colitis and Crohn's disease. Now, butyrate only lasts for a flash, like lighting a match. So the way to keep butyrate around long term is eating a healthy diet 3 times a day, 3 meals a day, and having enough good bacteria in your intestines. So you're constantly releasing butyrate, because butyrate gives energy for digestion. Butyrate literally gives the colon the energy to digest and absorb key nutrients such as calcium and magnesium. But butyrate also gives the intestinal immune system, the enterocytes and the colonocytes, the energy to control the immune system. And that's really important because about 75% of our immune cells come in contact with our digestive tract every day. Now, the butyrate that's made by the healthy bacteria when you eat good foods, it gives you energy for healing the intestines, but it also helps normalize the colon cells. So this helps reduce inflammation if you have an inflammatory colon disease, but it also reduces the risk of colon cancer. Studies show that when there's butyrate present, you take cells that are starting to become abnormal and you restore them to normalcy. So what does butyrate do for the brain? That's very interesting. Butyrate helps create your blood-brain barrier. So let me explain what this is. This appeared in Neuroscience Letters in 2016. The blood-brain barrier is additional insulation in the blood vessels in the brain. See, the circulation in your toes and by your heart is the same circulation that enters your brain. So to prevent bad things from exiting the circulatory system and entering the brain, there's extra insulation. It's called the blood-brain barrier. You need the butyrate to create the blood-brain barrier. So research is finding that having the healthier versions of bacteria in our gut offers some protection against dementia, including Alzheimer's disease, against depression, helps you cope with stress and anxiety, helps with Parkinson's disease. It's needed for general wellness of the brain. It may even help with migraine headaches. So let's go to some of the studies. This is looking at psychological benefits and mood benefits and also memory. So this is the University of Verona, which is in Italy, and the local hospital in Verona. And it's a daily dose of a multi-strain probiotic supplement. Significantly affects mood. It significantly improves mood, but it reduces some really bad symptoms. It reduces not just the depressive symptoms, but also anger. And at the same time, it's improving fatigue while it's improving the quality of your sleep. This is a very recent study from Italy. So it's a multi-strain probiotic. They gave it to people with depression. It reduced their feelings of anger. It improved their fatigue, and it improved their sleep quality. That's pretty cool for the get-go. So what about directly related to memory? This is a Japanese study. It's a randomized controlled human clinical trial where they're using a strain called Bifidobacterium brevi, and it shows it could improve memory in older adults with mild cognitive impairment. Now, that's a very important finding. Mild cognitive impairment, the brain has shrunk a bit, but memory is really suffering. Like, people notice it. It's not just a person, it's not just subjective, where the person says, hey, I'm starting to forget things. People actually see it. They're actually observing it. And people with mild cognitive impairment, they're having trouble like remembering how to cook certain foods, what's the recipe. They're going to have trouble if they get a new car understanding how to use the GPS system or the audio system. They're going to have trouble with a new cell phone, how to use the new cell phone. And it's just not a good thing. But they're still functioning in society. They can still function in society, just not the way they used to. Their memory is not what it used to be. The problem is most people with mild cognitive impairment will slide into Alzheimer's disease. So they gave 79 people. These people were normal weight. They were not obese. They were between the age of 50 to 79. They were in Tokyo. 80 people. They all suffered with mild cognitive impairment. They gave them either the Bifidobacterium brevi, one single strain, or a placebo, and it mattered. They took one of the probiotics twice a day or the placebo twice a day for 4 months. And they found scores on brain function tests, on cognitive function tests, absolutely improved on the probiotic versus the placebo. In particular, the findings showed that it improved immediate memory, visuospatial construction, and delayed memory. But other tests scores improved also. So here's the last one I'm going to talk about where it comes to memory, and then we're going to look at mood. In this report, we're looking at people with dementia. And it's they've shown in this study for the first time that when they gave a probiotic supplement to people with Alzheimer's disease, these were people between 60 to 95, it was a clinical trial, that memory improved. It's in the journal Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience. A daily dose of the probiotic Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium, so they were mixed together, over a 3-month period, a 12-week period, is enough to yield a moderate but significant improvement in the score of elderly Alzheimer's disease patients' memories on a mini mental state exam. Now that's important. That's a standardized test to measure how bad the memory impairment is. I think what I'm going to do at this point, because I have a lot more studies, I think I'm going to break this episode into 2. So in the second part, we're going to talk about stress, anxiety, depression, migraine headaches. Thank you for tuning in to the Invite Health Podcast. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Please subscribe. Please leave us a review. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. And I hope to see you another time on another episode of the Invite Health Podcast. And thank you so much for listening.